Greiner, plus leading social researcher Hugh Mackay. But first, Eleanor Hall reports on the things that matter.
I have to report to you that two people stood for the leadership, John Hewson and Alexander Downer. Alexander Downer received 43 votes. John Hewson received 36. The new leader of the Liberal Party is Alexander Downer.
Congratulations, Mr. Downer.
Thank you very much.
100 days ago, he was the Liberal Party's new messiah, a true politician born of the party who would lead the battle-scarred and divided coalition out of the policy vacuum post-fightback. It was always going to be a tough ask, but Alexander Downer did not make it any easier for himself. And today, his statement of direction must not only set his party clearly on course for the next election, it must rescue his own leadership.
Mr. Leader, how are you?
Following a string of gaffes and largely self-inflicted body blows, Alexander Downer has just suffered one of the most spectacular dives in approval in polling history, plummeting in one poll from 44 to 15% in the space of a month. Now a statement of direction that was to be a symbol of the Liberal Party's fresh start has become a major test of whether Alexander Downer has what it takes to unite both moderates and Conservatives behind him.
Well, it's with great pleasure that today I release the Coalition's broad direction statement, which we have called the things that matter. As I talk with Australians all over the country, I hear one very clear message. Australia is a country which is drifting. There's no sense of national direction or national cohesion. This document points to a better alternative than more of the same under Labor, more of the boom-bust, more of the special deals, more of the broken promises, and more of the bitter divisiveness.
But when he was talking to Australians in Western Australia last month, consensus was certainly not what Mr Downer had in mind. This speech on Mabo to the Conservative extreme of the party set off his poll decline.
We'll sit down with the states, and especially with Richard Court and his team, and if I have to repeal the Act to achieve our goals, then that's what I'll do.
It was followed by what must be one of the more disastrous meet-the-people exercises in Australian politics, as Alexander Downer visited Aboriginal communities in Central Australia, but struggled to articulate the Coalition position on Northern Territory land rights.
Well,
I'm just confused. I just want to clarify.
Right, as I said, I had something else on my mind in the context of that, and the policy does make it clear that we would like to reduce the veto.
His problems were compounded when Mr Downer tried to explain his backflip on the grounds that he was overcome with emotion after a corroboree. It later emerged the corroboree was held after Mr Downer's confused statement, not before it. But the rumblings of concern in moderate ranks became a roar when the new leader, who proclaimed himself a moderate Conservative, appeared to line up with the anti-homosexual section of the party in sacking Dr Hewson from the front bench.
We allow a handful of people to run our party, a handful of hard-right people to narrow the base of our party, then we've got some real problems.
Then last week, Alexander Downer's past returned to embarrass him and provide sport for the Prime Minister.
But I do believe he is the most foolish political leader of this country since Billy McMahon.
Today, in the slightly less heated atmosphere of the National Press Club, supported by his mother, Lady Downer, wife, Nikki, and prominent Liberals, it was time for the new leader to put his stamp on the party.
We believe that our statement today on the things that matter will strike a chord that will resonate around this country. There are millions of Australians, young and old, individuals and families, in the cities and beyond them, who have become outsiders in their own country. They're taken for granted by a smug and complacent Labor government that practices deceit and deal-making far better than genuine national leadership. The silent majority in Australia have always been a force for basic common sense. It's time their concerns were listened to and acted upon.
While adamant it is not a policy document, Mr Downer says this statement sets out clearly where the Coalition stands on issues of importance to the often referred to silent majority. His Things That Matter document states that the Coalition is pro-jobs, pro-families, pro-community and pro-Australia. The Downer Job Creation Plan aims to free up the industrial relations system, boost business investment by reducing tax burdens, encourage national savings by giving incentives and privatising selected government operations, and setting up a national strategy to ensure Australia is at the cutting edge of science and technology. On the family, Mr Downer will create a department of the family to coordinate family policies. He will encourage flexible working hours for parents, change the tax system and family payment system to ease the financial burden on families, and he plans to end what he calls Labor's discrimination against parents who choose to remain at home. The goals for the community include using asset sales to fund major infrastructure projects, revitalising regional Australia, building a national consensus, and supporting voluntary and community groups with federal and private funding. And the Coalition's strategies to build national pride include support for the flag, opposition to any radical change to the Constitution, and a commitment to reform Australia's international treaty-making process.
Offered the chance to state the substance of his leadership, Mr Downer has offered us a catalogue of platitudes, an insult to the intelligence of our fellow Australians. I've never seen, I think, a more fatuous document than this one. Fightbacks looks like a war and peace document compared to this, which is a Mills and Boon economic and social guide.
It was never going to be well received by the government, but neither will this document provide much comfort for the Republicans, gay rights advocates or protectors of Aboriginal rights within the Coalition. Without the policy flesh, this document is essentially a series of motherhood statements. And until that policy substance is provided, a question mark will remain over the new Messiah.
That report from Eleanor Hall, and before we go on, I've just had news confirmed that a state Labor MP in Sydney has been shot dead tonight. We'll bring you more on that at the end of the program as we're able to verify it. And now to our...
The election is held. We will vote to amend the land fund legislation to bring it into line with what was resolved by the Senate. And I want to make that very clear.
The opposition understood that he started the meter ticking. The 3-month meter ticking. Yes, I know about you, brother. About the 3-month meter.
We've seen the opposition.
We put
Member for
the challenge up to you, and you buckled. And you buckled. So, Mr. Speaker, no.
Order.
This is all.
Order. The Prime Minister has the call.
The empirical test is we put up the challenge and you buckled. And you're now saying you don't like the bill. You had a chance in the Senate to do justice to Aboriginal people and you didn't. You sent the bill back full of these shoddy,